We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone. Identifying and addressing customer objections. This is a new presentation for us, and we're very excited to be offering it to you today. We have the ladies of Zenagos with us, and they will do a short introduction of themselves when after I begin my intro here. If you've been on any of their previous presentations, you know you're in for great information today. So we love having them present to our SCORE clients. So as we get going, if you don't know about SCORE, let's talk about that real quick. What SCORE does is share information with the small business community. And we do that in a couple different ways. One is through our website. There's tons of free business information, templates that you can download, blogs, articles, videos, lots of great information. So if you haven't been on the score.org website, I do encourage you to take a look. Templates that you can download are not just business plans, there's marketing plans, cash flow, budgeting, all kinds of different things. So take a look. The other thing we do is training through our workshops and webinars. Our newsletter does come out a couple times a week, or you can go on to, like I said, the score.org/Boston website to find workshops that we have available or webinars we have available coming up that are more locally based. The most important thing that SCORE does, however, is the mentoring. And our mentors are volunteers. So our services are free and confidential. Our volunteers come to us with a wide variety of background and skills to work with you and help you with your the things that you need help with in the small business genre. They are working with those that are trying to decide if small business is right for them. We're working with those that are in the planning phase, and we're working with those that are readier in business. And a beginning session, if you've not been with SCORE before, is going to run anywhere around in that 45-minute mark, plus or minus. And they're going to want to learn about you, learn about your goals, learn about your challenges, and help you formulate a plan to meet those goals and meet those challenges head on. So I strongly encourage you to look into getting a SCORE mentor. Businesses are more successful when they have a mentor, and that's very easy to do for us. So you're going to go to the score.org website. There's a blue box, and you're going to put in your zip code, and that will match you to the chapter that is nearest you. Then we'll ask you a couple quick questions, and that information will be used to help match you to a mentor that best fits your situation. So today we are using the Q&A button for questions you want asked to the presenters at the end. I know that they are going to do some interaction through chat, so have your typing fingers ready. But if you have a specific question, just so that we don't lose it in the chat, because that keeps scrolling, please put it into the Q&A button on the toolbar, on the Zoom toolbar. We are recording, and the recording will be posted at the score.org/Boston website. And as shown by the graphic, you want to go to the local workshops, pull down to previously recorded webinar. Give me 24 to 48 hours to get that posted, but it will be there for you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pull down my share, and I'm turning it over to Karen. Is that correct?
That's correct. Thank you very much, Teresa, for the kind introduction. We really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and put my screen up. Let's make sure we get that. All right, everybody see that? And let's go ahead. I'm Karen Baldeschwieler. My colleagues call me Kate14, so they don't have to pronounce my crazy 14-letter Swiss last name. I'm one of the 4 co-founders of Zenagos. We call ourselves Zenagos experts, and all 4 of us are here today. We all have extensive sales experience. Monica is the master of the complex deal. She does deals involving combinations of private companies, nonprofits, governments, etc. As one example, she negotiated a ground lease for a $13 million public-private aviation project in North Carolina recently. Stacy has advised branded companies, including Fidelity and Land's End, but she's spent the last 2 decades helping a wide variety of small businesses to improve their marketing, sales, and technology. Mavis has sold massive e-commerce technology deals to companies like Walmart and Nestle, but her coolest sales experience was selling Lexus cars for the highest rated dealer in the US, the winner of the 2022 JD Power Dealer of Excellence Award, and consistently the highest selling dealer in the country. I've also participated in selling 10-year, 8-figure enterprise sales deals to big colleges like University of Kansas and the College of William and Mary. So we each have a lot of experience in big companies, but what we're most proud of is that we have started 17 small businesses between us. So each of us has been a solo entrepreneur at least once in our lives, and we know how hard it is to get your business off the ground. So now as Zenagos, we provide our blue chip experience to small businesses at a very affordable cost because we want you to have the help that we wished we'd had back then. And we're thrilled to have an opportunity to share with and learn from you today. First, a couple of housekeeping items. Please feel free to engage in the chat. I will also give you some practice questions to answer in there as we go. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A window. If the answers are straightforward, my colleagues may answer them right away. Otherwise, if we have time at the end, we'll answer as many as we can. If you want to connect with one or more of us on LinkedIn after the session, Stacey's going to go ahead and put some links in the chat so that you can see our personal links. Make sure that you say that you were at the SCORE Customer Objections webinar so that we will accept your invitation. Stacey has got mine up there, and I guess she'll get the others in there shortly. By the end of this session, you should be able to identify the different types of customer objections. You'll understand why addressing an objection is important for closing the sale. You'll be able to describe the best way to address each type of objection, and we'll give you some tips for each type. We're not giving out the slides from this presentation, but we did put the content into a super cool free ebook that provides the framework that we cover in today's presentation, along with tips for responding to objections and even some practice quiz questions. So to get the ebook, you use your phone camera to grab this QR code, and we'll mail you a link so you can download the ebook. Stacey's also going to put the QR code link directly in the chat in case that's easier for you. Also, on the page that you get to with the QR code, there's an option to schedule a 15-minute one-on-one session with Mavis. If you do schedule one, you can share any specific objections that you get, and Mavis will provide suggestions for how to address it. I promise she won't try to sell you any consulting or anything else. She'll just help you with your personal sales questions. So make yourself, avail yourself of that free opportunity if you want. If you get a chance, tell us a little bit about you in the chat. We'd love to know what kind of business you're running and what you find challenging about selling. I'll give you just a minute to get the link and the QR code and all that. All right, I'm going to carry on, but as you get a moment, please feel free to tell us what you're selling and what you find challenging about selling. Today, we're going to talk about what a customer objection is and why they matter. We're going to give you a framework for how to identify 5 major types of objections, and we'll cover our recommended way to address each objection type, including some tips for each type. Then we'll do a demonstration so you can kind of see how the sales conversation flows. So let's get started. You may be really confident about pitching your ideas or selling your offering, but most people aren't. Most people find it challenging to describe their ideas. They already have a really hard time selling their offering. They may have some bad memories about pushy salespeople, and they don't want to be that kind of person, or they may feel rejection because, nobody really enjoys that. Addressing objections is a new concept for most people, so expect it to be a little awkward at first. And just remember, everybody can improve, and the way to get better is to practice. So here we go. At Zenagos, we teach 8 key steps for a sales conversation. The 8 steps should flow naturally as a dialogue between you and your prospective customer. We cover these steps in greater detail in our workshop called Perfecting Sales Conversations, which we've given through SCORE before and may do in the future. So keep an eye out for that one. If you want to get early notice of any of our upcoming events, just go to the bottom of the Zenagos homepage and sign up for our newsletter. It only comes out twice a month, and it always includes links to any upcoming events that we have. We refer to the first 4 steps as opening the sales conversation, and the last 4 steps as closing the sales conversation. And today, what we're going to do is focus on step 5. doing a deep dive into customer objections, which is the first and most challenging step in closing the deal. This is a normal and natural part of selling, the process of helping your prospective customer become comfortable with their decision to buy. It's also part of the sales process where many small business owners experience challenges, especially entrepreneurs who don't have any sales experience or training. So what is an objection? An objection is anything that a potential customer says or thinks that might keep them from buying from you. So some objections are obvious, like that's too expensive, or I don't need that. Some objections are hidden, things that the customer thinks but doesn't say, such as, I don't want them to find out about my bad credit, or they don't think I'm rich enough to be in this store. And then some objections are just total brush offs, such as, I don't have time for this, or please don't call me again. So when you receive objections, it's not a bad sign or a reason to get defensive. It's just information. When you get an objection, your customer is telling you that you have more selling work to do. So for today, we're going to focus on objections that the customer shares with you. So these are the obvious objections and the brush offs. Surfacing hidden objections is a next level sales skill. We don't have time for that today, but once you master these objections, you'll be ready to move on to that. In order to close most sales deals, you need to get the prospective customer or prospect to voice their objections, and then you need to address them. This becomes a cycle in which the prospect raises an objection, you identify and confirm the objection, address the objection, and then confirm that you've addressed it. Once you've addressed all the objections, then you can ask for commitment, which is the next step in the sales process. But very often when you ask for commitment, the customer will just raise a new objection, and that will take you back around the cycle. That's okay. It's a normal part of the process. You just do the cycle again. So you keep doing this within reason and nicely, of course, until the customer's run out of objections and is ready to commit. Now, sometimes you run into an objection that you can't address or resolve right then. And when that happens, you kind of have to come off the cycle and do a follow-up. So that's a time or a date when you'll have the necessary information to resolve the objection. And we'll talk about that too in a little bit. So let's break down this objection cycle. Step one is to listen for the customer's particular objections. One of the challenges that new small business owners have when talking to customers is that we talk too much and too soon. So we think our offering is awesome and we clearly want to close the deal. So we just start spewing information. We don't listen enough. And this happens especially when we're nervous. However, good listeners are thought to be the best conversationalists. And why? Because people like to talk about themselves. So prospects will typically be happiest if they do most of the talking. Also, if you can keep your prospect talking, then objections will arise, and then you can address them. If you talk too much, you may never even hear the objections. If you don't hear them, you definitely can't address them, and that could keep you from winning business. So another common mistake in sales conversations is to treat objections like a shooting gallery, identifying the objections as quickly as possible and then shooting them down. Sometimes you shoot down the objection even before the prospect says it. So our advice, don't try to guess your customer's objections. Customers may expect this kind of aggressive approach in some sales settings, but they rarely enjoy it. And, you may be addressing objections they don't even have, which is both a waste of your energy and may make them feel like they're unheard. So once again, listen, and figure out what the prospect's top priorities are so you hear the objections. The best salespeople take time to build a relationship. So sure, there are common objections, but every prospective customer is different and each one may have a slightly different concern. And the only way you'll figure out how to close the deal with this particular prospect is if you listen first and try to connect. So stop talking and listen. One time I had a new sales employee who's struggling and I told him his motto just needed to be just stop talking, JST. Sometimes the best information comes after an uncomfortably long pause. So in preparation for the next section, let's take just a moment for reflection. What objections have you heard frequently when selling your offering? So what do prospects say or think that keeps them from buying from you? So you don't need to put this in the chat. Just think about it for a moment and jot down, somewhere close by what comes to mind. You can write it on a paper, on your phone notes app, but put it somewhere that you can refer to as we go through the next couple of slides. As we cover the types of objections, you'll want to look at your list and see what types you have. So just take a minute and jot down what comes to mind. I tend to jot things on a notepad on my phone, wherever you want to put it, or just think about it. We've got lots of great businesses in here: dog training, wastewater treatment, beer, online therapy, yoga instruction. Really cool. All right, I hope you have one or two objections that people typically give you for your product. Keep that list handy. So now we're on step 2 of the objection cycle. You've been listening carefully to your prospective customer and they raised an objection. So you need to identify the type of the objection. So how do you do that? At Zenagos, we use the acronym PANTO, P-A-N-T-O, to remember 5 different types of objections, P-A-N-T-O. So we'll go through each of these 5 types now. P is for price objections. When customers mention price or not having enough money, that's a price objection. It can also be expressed as value, such as not getting enough value for the price. And more subtle price objections will sound like the customer not wanting all of the features that are offered. Examples of price objections: that's too expensive. I can get something just as good for less. I just want something simple. This is all too much. So those are examples of price objections. So what are some examples of price objections that you run into when you're selling your offering? Were any of the items on your list price objections? Go ahead and put an example in the chat if you have one. Examples of price objections that you get. Yep, just too high. The price is too high. They can get it cheaper somewhere else. Right on. I think we all get price objections. That's the one objection that's pretty universal. A is for angst objections. So you can identify angst objections when customers expect suspicion or a lack of trust. So this can also be expressed as a fear of a negative change in the relationship in the future. Examples of angst objections are: I've never heard of your company. Or you'll say it's a great warranty, but when I come in with a problem, it won't be covered. Or I like you, but what if you go to another company? So what are some examples of angst objections that you run into when you're selling your offering? Were any of the items on your list angst objections? Go ahead and put some examples in the chat. I saw we got some more price objections at the end there. Any angst objections? That sounds too good to be true. That's a classic. Right. We don't know your company. You don't have a social media presence. Great. Great. Keeping them in there as they come up for you. Customers see you're not based in the USA. Classic. Yep. N is for need objections. So when customers say they don't need the product or service at all, they don't see how it would solve their issue, you have a need objection. So examples of need objections are: I don't need it. That was pretty obvious, right? I don't see how this would solve my problem. This isn't going to get me where I need to go. So were any of your objections that you wrote down need objections? Do you run into need objections with your offering? Go ahead and put those in. Yep, we got some good angst ones at the end. Another new sales rep, right? Do you have the right type of certification? I've never heard of you. Yep. Why is sea salt important to consume? Fascinating. I don't know the answer to that. We'll have to tell us. Your company is very well known. What would my commission be? Why do I need you? All right. T, great examples. T is timing objections. So you have a timing objection when the customer says they like the product or service, but they don't want it now. So sometimes the delay is to bring in a co-decider, one or more extra decision makers. If you sell to individuals, business to consumer, or B2C, the co-decider might be a spouse or a partner or a roommate, somebody who needs to participate in the decision. If you sell to large organizations, business to business or B2B, or to nonprofits or even to entire nations, you may have to navigate a multi-layered structure of decision makers addressing many sets of objections. And this framework can apply to all of those situations. So examples of timing objections are, I can wait until next year. I don't need to solve this right now. I can't decide this without add some additional co-deciders agreement. Or have you ever heard, call me next quarter, we don't have the budget right now? So which of your examples were timing objections? Were any of the ones on your list timing? We don't have budget right now. I can feel the pain coming through these timing objections. Very frustrating. Maybe next year. I like your product, but business is slow right now. Okay, last but not least, the fifth type, O, is for options objections. So when customers say that they prefer a competing product or service, you can identify that as an options objection, as in, I have a better option. Your prospect may express an ideological affiliation with the competing offering, such as that car is better for the environment. In that case, they have a commitment to a belief, such as being environmentally conscious. So they're making their decision at least partially based on that. Or they may just prefer the overall experience of the competing option. Other examples of options objections are very specific, like this car doesn't have the digital mirror and I need that. Or I think that other car is just more me. Since Mavis on our team used to sell Lexus cars, we always like to use car examples. So what are some examples of options objections that you run into? I saw some earlier that could be also classified as options objections. Go ahead and put some options objections. Yep, the other method works for us. There's no reason to change partners. Good. Keep thinking about those options objection when they mention a competitor. Okay, so that's it. Panto, P-A-N-T-O. Now, sometimes it's hard to tell whether an objection belongs in one category or another. So, for example, almost any objection could ultimately be seen to be a price objection. Some prospects like to haggle. So the haggler may say a variety of things to keep the haggling going, but no matter what they say, it's ultimately a price objection. If you're not certain what a type of objection is, just choose the category that you feel is the most relevant. It's not critical that you choose exactly the right label. What's important is that you recognize that there is an objection and that you use that as an opportunity to continue the conversation and learn more. Okay, so once you've identified that objection in your mind, we move on to step 3 in the objection cycle, confirm your understanding. This is an important step that most salespeople skip, and that's to their detriment. So you need to make sure that you fully understand the objection so that you can choose the best response. So the easiest way to confirm your understanding is to reflect back. So you can do this by repeating what the person said with slightly different words and a question in your voice. For example, it sounds like you're really concerned about fill in the blank. Such as, it sounds like you're really concerned about the warranty. Or, your top concern is fill in the blank. Is that right? Such as, your top concern is safety. Is that right? And you don't want to sound like a robot. So you have to practice this until it sounds conversational. In fact, just try it in all of your conversations. You'll be surprised how reflecting back can work in almost any situation. And you'll know that you're getting good at it when people lean in and keep talking and tell you more. So be curious. Ask follow-up questions. People like to talk about themselves and their concerns. So let's do a little practice here, identifying types of objections, just to increase our familiarity in our facility. So Stacy's going to put a question in the chat, and you can put the choice number for what you think the correct choice is. So here's the first question. A warranty is a scam. The customer never pays, the company never pays off when the product breaks. Which type is that? Right on. That's an angst objection because the customer expresses suspicion or a lack of trust. So here the customer doesn't trust that the warranty will deliver. Next question. So the customer says, I don't see what your product could do for me. Which kind is that? Right on. It's a need objection. They said they don't need it. They don't see how it could solve their issue. Okay, next question. Customer says, this is too expensive. Right on. That's the price objection. Okay. Next question. Customer says, we're already working with another vendor. That's right. Options objection. The next question. Call me back next quarter. Whoa. That's always a hard one. Yep. Timing objection. All right. We're getting good at this. Customer says, this has too many bells and whistles. Go ahead and paste that one and see. Sorry. Too many bells and whistles. Aha, this one's challenging, right? I would call this a price objection because the customer mentions cost or price or value. So here they say there's too many features, but this one's on the border. You might also identify it as a need or an options objection. So if you can't tell what type it is, you try to ask the customer another question to figure out what's their core objection. Okay, next question. The other motorboat has more horsepower. Yeah, options. I see some love for timing and I see some love for angst also, but I'd primarily call that an options objection. Okay, next one. As soon as we go with your company, you'll get bought by that other company that we hate. Angst, lots of angst. There could be some timing in there too, I agree. Okay, a couple more just to wrap it up. Customer says, let me think about it. I see a lot of love for different choices. I would call that a timing objection. But yes, there could be some angst behind that for sure. All right, last one. The customer says, this isn't going to solve our problem. Yep, need objection, right? Could also have some angst behind it, but I would call that primarily a need objection. Okay, so that should get us a little bit of facility with the different types. So this is kind of fun, right? Now you're going to hear objections everywhere. So listen for them on TV, listen for them in all of your conversations, practice identifying objections, but don't do it out loud. So some of our clients get very enthusiastic about identifying objections and they blurt out something to their prospect like, that's a need objection. This can really confuse your prospect and, will obviously make them think that, you're trying to fit them into some kind of a rubric. So don't tell them what you're doing. Just listen, identify those objections, and try to keep all that excitement inside. Okay, so now that you can recognize objections, you can identify each type, you're ready to move on to addressing those customer objections. So when you've identified the objection and you've made your prospective customer feel heard by confirming your understanding, you're ready for step 4, address the objection. Before we go into this one quick caveat. So Zenagos' Panto framework is a technique for salespeople who are working on their skills and their confidence. So it's just a starting point. Once you become confident at selling and you know how to address the common objections that you get for your particular offering, you're going to naturally depart from this framework and make your own technique. And that is as it should be. So every salesperson develops a unique style for their particular offering. And this framework is not a set of hard rules. It's just a launching pad. So, if you get into an argument with somebody about what the correct answer is to a particular type of objection, have some flexibility because it really does vary. And this is all a learning experience. So it's designed to get you started on that learning process and make you an observer. That said, the best way in our experience to address a price objection is to either reduce the scope or features or offer payment options that make the price more manageable. So the key tip here is don't drop your price without changing the offering. And that's because if the price seems arbitrary, then the customer just won't trust you and they won't trust the value. So you can review the features in your solution and ask which parts are less important to you. So we have a client who's amazing at this. She's an event planner. And when someone says the estimate for the party is too expensive, she just gives them choices. So open bar is your largest cost. How about if we go BYOB? Or do you want to remove the candy table? Or the photo backdrop is expensive. Can we do without that? So she arrives at a price that works for the client by reducing the features of the party. Now, in the end, the client may choose to pay the higher price to get the features that they want. Or if cost is their top priority, then they may choose the pared down offering. So did you have any price objections on your list? How could you address the price objections that you get from prospects? Good, I like that. Reduce the opening order size, offer subscription instead of a flat fee. Good, these are great techniques. And the other technique, of course, is a payment plan of some kind, right? So sometimes that's a viable possibility, other times it's not. Levels of service. Yes, if you're a service provider, can you have tiered services, gold, silver, and bronze? Great. Okay, you guys are thinking, love it. So in our experience, the best way to address an angst objection is to provide testimonials or offer a guarantee. So the key tip here is tell stories of the value that you have provided to others. So remember KLT, know, like, trust. People are more likely to buy from salespeople that they know, like, and trust. So if you've been a good listener and you're building a strong relationship, the prospect will begin to trust you and your offering. For newer companies that don't have a track record, a common way to reduce angst is to offer a money back guarantee or a free trial period during which the prospect can cancel without penalty. So angst objections can be really tough when your company's new. But you just do the best you can until you have a track record and you can get some customer testimonials. In the last big company I worked in, it took 2 years before we got our first deal. And so, boy, we had a lot of challenges with angst objections early in our existence. And, once we started to get those customers, it got a lot easier. So you just have to kind of fight through that period. All right. Did you have any angst objections on your list, and how could you have addressed those? Yep. Offer a discount on a second order, right? That's a possibility. This one's more challenging, isn't it? We get very used to dealing with price objections. Angst objections, we're going to have to think about a little bit. Okay, we'll do more of this in our examples. Good. Provide referrals. Absolutely. What's a reference? Get a referenceable client. Good. Customer feedback system. Now you're getting warmed up. The best way to address a need objection is to draw on what you learned from your conversation to emphasize how your solution meets the prospective customer's challenge. So probe for information until you get a sense for their needs. So the key tip here is customers buy to achieve a result. So if you focus on their need and their result, the result that you will provide, then you'll get closer to what they're looking for. So avoid getting bogged down in how your product or service works. Because remember, nobody wants to hear more about something they don't need. So it's important to note that sometimes the customer just doesn't need your offering. And if so, it's better to figure that out early so that you can save your valuable sales time for a viable prospect. One of the things that Mavis always says from her experience is no is a lot better than maybe, because no lets you move on and work with somebody who might be interested. Maybe drags and can take a lot of your time. Need is the most complicated sales objection to address. Even the most experienced salespeople can improve at addressing need objections with more practice and more feedback. So did you have any need objections on your list? How could you address those? Ratings and review for angst objections, very appropriate. Right, explain benefits. Yes, our product prevents cell damage, right? So one of the ways to address need objections is fear, uncertainty, and doubt, or FUD. So what are the things that are going to happen to you if you don't do this, right? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt is also a good way of addressing a timing objection. So the best way to address a timing objection is to offer incentives for buying now, or to be certain that the prospective customer understands how the product will relieve their pain and produce positive results. So you can go either one way or the other, right? What are the positive results you're going to get? Or, what's the pain that you're going to avoid? So for products, for example, offers like BOGO, buy one, get one, or exploding discounts, offers that have an expiration date, these are incentives that are designed to encourage the customer who's likely to buy sooner or later to just buy it now. But that kind of offer is generally more applicable to retail products than to services. When you have a long and detailed sales cycle, such as for a business service solution, the timing objection is an indication that you haven't fully explained the value that you're providing. If the solution will save the customer money, then buying sooner is obviously better. If the solution will increase the customer's revenue, then urgency is really high. Increase the sense of urgency by explaining the value of moving now or the consequences of delay. So that's where it's either what's positive or what's negative with the timing objection. We have some very experienced and sophisticated salespeople who will just say, okay, when a customer says, call me next quarter. Now, it may make you feel good about yourself because you're not pushy and the customer must appreciate that, right? However, the $1 million a year salespeople stick with the conversation and they often win the business. So nice salespeople don't always finish last, but they do leave the door open for more accomplished salespeople to swoop in and grab the deal. So do you have any timing objections on your list? How could you address the timing objections that you get? Right, I like that from the last one, selling local products. It really plays to an ideology, right? The desire to buy local. And on the opposite side, the one that was having trouble because the company wasn't based in the USA, that's fighting a different ideology, right? I want to buy things that are made in the US. Okay, timing objections. Yes, the exploding discount or the price increase. Price increase is upcoming price increase is a great way of accelerating timing. Like if you don't buy it now, it's just going to get more expensive. I actually had a salesperson use that on me recently and it worked. Introductory offer, good. So sometimes a prospective customer states an objection that you can't address, at least not right then. And this happens a lot with timing objections where the prospect says they can't make a decision right now because there's a co-decider who's not present and who needs to participate in that decision. So when this happens, you may have to jump off the objection cycle and schedule a follow-up. Don't forget to follow up on time and to be ready for the co-decider to make some new objections. Now, we've seen some pretty creative ways of overcoming the co-decider situation. When Mavis sold Lexus cars, she used to ask at the start of the test drive whether there's anyone else who was going to participate in the car buying decision. And if the customer said something like, yes, my wife will need to participate, Mavis would say, well, where is she? Let's drive over there right now. And believe it or not, this response completely delighted customers, headed off the timing objection, and led to a lot more sales. So don't be afraid to be creative. All right, lastly, the best way to address an options objection is to provide proof points or share convincing data. So the key tip here is know your competition cold. Know how your features line up against theirs so you can emphasize the strengths of your offering. Openly criticizing your competition can be a bad tactic. It can make your prospect aware of a competitor that actually hadn't thought of yet. And it can definitely give the prospect a negative impression of you as a salesperson, since you're saying negative things, but is perfectly reasonable to point a customer toward reputable news or reviews that show the shortcomings of your competitor and the advantages of your offering. So stay in touch with statistics and reviews that provide the value of research of your product or service, or research that validates what you do so that you can provide that on demand. All right, last one. Do you have any options objections on your list? How could you address those options objections? Professional designation, very good. Yes, talk about your value. right? This is a little easier in a field that has reviews like selling cars, right? Where there are these kind of industry reviews. But yes, know your pricing and value options. Absolutely. All right. So let's try some questions to practice the addressing part of the objections. Stacy's going to paste some questions into the chat. All right. Which one of the following is a good way to address a price objection? That's right. If it's possible, offering flexible payment options is a great way of dealing with a price objection. You could drop the price and ask the customer not to tell anyone. But in our experience, this flexible payment option is a better choice. All right, next question. Which of the following is a good way to address an angst objection? That's right. That's right. The person is expressing some anxiety. So give them some phone numbers of people to call. All right, next question. What's a good way to address a need objection? Need objections are challenging. I would go ahead with 2, emphasize how your product will serve the need. Telling a customer why your product is better may work, but remember, people don't want to hear about why something they don't need is better, right? They want to sort of hear why they would need it. Okay, next question. Price objection. That's right. Reduce when you drop the price. It's very, very applicable for small businesses. Strong way to address that objection. Next question. Timing objection. I see some love for some different choices here, right? You might not identify this as a timing objection, but I would describe the positive results that you're getting for other customers. So give them that sense of that value, because testimonials aren't necessarily going to have them hurry up, or an extra feature isn't necessarily going to encourage them to hurry up, but knowing that they're missing out on a value may get them to speed up that timing. Timing objections are a challenge. Okay, next one. Angst objection. That's right. When you can identify, angst is a very powerful category, because when you can identify that someone's afraid of something, then it's easy to think about what could I give them to make them less afraid, right? So choice number 1 is the right choice for that one. I see some other choices that, you could absolutely try. And remember, your offering may be different from the average as well. All right, next question. Timing objection. Yeah, I think the best choice for a timing objection is for make that buy one, get one, if you can, for your offering. Now, for your offering, that may not be possible, right? And so then you might fall to some other choices. All right, let's do one more and then we'll move on. Okay, options objection. That's right. Something that shows the value in a objective sense, like statistics or a review. All right, great. Great. Hopefully that gives you a sense of how these work. So we've arrived at the end of the objection cycle. So you've identified the objection, you've confirmed your understanding, and then you address that objection. So step 5 is to confirm that you've addressed the objection such that they're ready to move forward with the sale. Now, this can be quick. It doesn't need to be complicated. But 2 questions that work really well are, does that address your concern? Or how does that sound? The prospect might say, that sounds great, signaling that you're finished with objections and you can ask for commitment, which is the next step in that sales process. You say, will you pay cash or charge? Or I'll send you a draft contract, review this afternoon. That's a great moment in the sales process. That's the ultimate goal of any sales process, to address all objections and ask for commitment. However, don't be surprised if you get another objection. That's a normal part of sales. You might go through the objection cycle multiple times, especially if you're selling a higher priced product or service. And remember, as you get practice dealing with objections, you may determine that some other response works better for your offering than the one suggested by Panto. And that's great. It just means that you're growing out of the framework and developing your own sales style. So at that point, you're selling the offering in the way that works for you. So feel free to stretch out of that. One last tip, don't forget the 2 confirmation steps. These are moments when you slow down and really listen to your prospect. These are brief steps, but they can really improve your sales conversations dramatically. Remember, objections aren't a shooting gallery. Great salespeople focus on high quality conversations and mutual benefit. All right. If you're feeling intimidated by or anxious about selling, you can conquer these feelings with practice. Practice again, and then practice some more. Start talking about your product or service to anyone who will listen to you. If your family members don't roll their eyes or run and hide when the subject of your business comes up, then you're not practicing enough. So let's do a little more practice. For each question, look at the customer's objection, identify it, and then choose the best response. The customer says, that's too expensive. Now we're wrapping it all up, putting it all together. Identify it, choose best response. I feel a lot of love for choice number 1, but we would choose choice 3. We identify this as a price objection. And so we're going to drop the features in order to drop the price. By asking which features are important, you're opening up to reduce that price. All right, that was a tough one. Next one, a warranty's a scam. The company never pays off when the product breaks. That's right, choice 1. We've identified that as an angst objection. And so the way to overcome angst is to give them some kind of confidence. Here, the confidence is the salesperson providing his own testimonial about the fairness of the company. I see some love for choice 2, and that's not a bad choice either. We would go with 1. Okay, next one. I don't see what your product could do for me. Yeah, I would go with choice 2. Identify it as a need objection. And then I say the best way to address a need objection is draw on what you learned from your conversation to emphasize the results that you're going to provide. So here the salesperson emphasizes the result and seeks more information, right? Because again, you don't want a demo of something you don't need, right? So that's but if you identify it as something else, you might try a different tactic. Okay, one more. Calling back next quarter, my favorite. Right. Absolutely a timing objection. And How can I show the value now? And this is a fear, uncertainty, and doubt approach, right? All right, I think we have time for one more, Stacy. Let's do one more. We're already working with vendor X. I saw that as one of the choices that one of you put in. We're already working with this other company. Based on our framework, this is an options objection. Company already has another option. The best way to respond would be to provide proof points. So we would go with choice number 3 by asking questions about the relationship. The salesperson is gathering information in order to, provide proof points. So let me see if I can get you a better price. Isn't a bad choice, but you would have to identify it as a price objection. So if it's an options objection, offering a better price doesn't necessarily help. And now if you get the haggler, it could. So, there's always a chance it could be price. But when they, trust them about what they say. If they say, I've already got another option, then treat it like an options objection. Okay, we're going to wrap up with a couple of quick demos of the cycle so you can see the flow. So Mavis and Monica are going to do the demo. Mavis is going to be the salesperson and Monica is going to be the customer. Mavis, take it away.
Good afternoon. How can I help you today?
Oh, good afternoon. I need a stapler.
Great. What kinds of things will you be using it for?
Well, I'm getting ready to do a tax prep this afternoon.
So this swing line on the left is our best stapler. It can handle up to 40 pages and has a really nice soft grip. It also has a rapid easy load feature. It's $24.99. It's pretty stylish.
$25? Talk about inflation. I think I'll check Amazon.com.
Okay, I'm in a bit of trouble. My customer is doing competitive shopping right in front of me. The objection is clearly price, and I need to address it very quickly. But first, I need to confirm that I really understand the objection, so I'm going to ask her a question. Before you do that, how many pages do you think you'll need to staple at a time?
Oh, probably I only need about 10 to 12 pages stapled together. I don't do a lot of stapling.
Okay, so I just learned something. I don't need to offer her our top of the line product with all the bells and whistles. I can address the price objection by offering something less expensive with fewer features. Oh, perfect. Here's the right one for you. This model will staple up to 15 pages. The price is only $9.99. So now I'm going to hand the conversation back to Monica by asking for confirmation. How does that sound?
Well, that's more of what I was looking for. So thank you.
Okay, so that's an example of handling a price objection. Let's do another example, but a more complicated one this time. And I'm going to pull down the screen share so that you can see Mavis and Monica a little bit.
Good afternoon. This is Always There Home Monitoring Service.
Hi, my name is Monica. I'm looking for an estimate for a home security system. I live at 175 Main Street in Raleigh.
Great, Monica. We can help with that. Tell me a little bit about what you need.
Well, there have been some breakouts around here, and I want to make sure that my house is safe.
So right now, I'm looking at your home using Google Maps and Google Earth. We can put motion sensors in the interior and exterior, add lighting to key areas, put sensors on every door and window, and add a professional monitoring package that will call 911 for emergencies. That'll be $249 a month, plus the one-time cost of the hardware. Installation will be free.
Oh, wow. Okay. I think I'm going to need to think about this one a little bit more.
So Monica has just given me an objection. I'm not sure if this is a timing objection, a price objection, or something else. So to confirm my understanding of the objection, I need to get some more information. Monica, it sounds like this is a big decision. What's your hesitation exactly?
Well, it sounds good, but maybe I should think about it a little bit more. I wasn't really ready to make a decision so fast.
So I've inquired, and this seems to be a timing objection to me. So I'm going to see if I can address that timing objection by offering her a buy now price. Sure. Here's the thing, Monica. You called at a great time. Today happens to be the equivalent of our Cyber Monday. So if you're able to commit today, I can give you 50% off the hardware costs. And based on what I can see, that could probably save you $300 to $400 if you act today. How does that sound?
Gee, now that's tempting.
So now I need to emphasize the value that we will create. Yes, Monica, and we are talking about the security of your home and family here. Every day that goes by is another opportunity for a break-in, or worse. I could get an installation team to your house by the end of the week. All of my customers tell me that they are so happy once we've put in the system. They say it gives them peace of mind.
You know, you're right.
Great. I'll sign you up right now.
Well, about that hardware you mentioned, I have friends where the equipment stopped working suddenly.
So we seem to have overcome the timing objection, but now Monica's worried about hardware failures. And this is an angst objection that I have to address. Oh, I understand how having the equipment suddenly stop working would be very concerning. And that's why we have a guarantee for all our hardware, free replacement for as long as you use our monitoring services. Our average replacement time is under 24 hours. Does that alleviate your concern?
Oh, yes, I'm happy with that. The whole thing actually sounds perfect.
Great. I'll email you the paperwork for your signature and you can give me your credit card details right now.
Oh, well, I should probably consult with my partner this evening before I sign anything.
Okay, Monica just threw me a curveball. She won't sign without talking to her partner. And there's not a lot I can do about that. So I'm going to have to set a follow-up step. And I need to make sure I can speak to the partner who may come up with a different set of objections. Okay, Monica, no problem. I'll email you the paperwork, but let's set up a call for tomorrow morning. I'd like you both to be on the call. Will 10 a.m. work for the two of you?
Yes, that's fine, actually.
Great. If we can get this decision done before noon tomorrow, I'll still be able to provide that 50% discount off the hardware. Speak to you then. Karen, you're on mute.
Sorry. Okay, so that demo should have given you a sense of two things. First, how the cycle of objections works. So one objection can lead to another, and then you just have to address them one at a time. And second, sometimes you get through a few objections, and then you have a follow-up step anyway. And that's the way the ball bounces. Be great at follow-up, and you can still win the deal. So we're just about out of time. I don't see a lot of questions in the Q&A, and that kind of wraps up our formal presentation. So thank you, everyone, for spending some of your valuable time with us today. We truly appreciate you. And as promised, here's a QR code for the ebook about customer objections. And Stacy will put a link in the chat one more time as well. On that download page, there's also a button to schedule a brief call with Mavis. So if you still have questions or if you want to talk about your specific customer objections, feel free to schedule a time with Mavis and she will be absolutely thrilled to talk with you one-on-one for free. Teresa, did you get any questions from the group that I didn't see?
There are no questions. Yeah, we're
okay.
Okay,
All
well,
right.
Thank you everybody for joining us today. And thank you to the ladies of Zenagos for another fantastic presentation. I hope to see you all on our next SCORE webinar.
Awesome.
Bye,
Thanks.
everybody.
Thank you, everybody.